City Council is hereby called to order. Please rise for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in these council chambers. We pray for thy divine guidance, that we may do all things well, according to thy holy will. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Mr. Thornberry?
Yes, Madam President, I move that we accept the minutes.
Second by Mr. Whittington. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Thornberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sanker?
Yes.
Mr. Mumper?
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. We will now temporarily adjourn this regular meeting, and we will then move into a public hearing. So we have a public hearing on Reliant Hospital, Norwood, 4953 Section Avenue, located in a heavy manufacturing district, M2, with a planned unit development, PUD overlay, presenting for review both preliminary and final plans. And those plans were distributed to you previously, and this was advertised in the newspaper as required. So we will call this public hearing to order. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the Reliant Hospital Norwood as presented? Please come forward. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Hearing none, we'll move on. Does anyone wish to speak opposed to the Reliant Hospital Norwood? Please come forward. If you'll give us your name and address. Excuse me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So my name is James Bonsall, 4536 Forest Avenue. And I'm definitely not here to speak against the hospital. I definitely think it's a cool project. But I'd just like to request one change to the project. So right now there's currently sidewalks in very deteriorating condition on Section Avenue and Ross Avenue. But there's no, and there's sidewalks kind of around the building, if you will, of the hospital. But there's no, even though there's a little sidewalk thing that comes right out here, there's no actual pedestrian connection to the building. And I apologize for not raising this to the Planning Commission beforehand. I've got their agendas coming to my email now. But I would just like to ask that, consider amending or at least putting a condition on the approval of this building to require that there be a connection to the sidewalk. I've spoke about, this is a lot different from Kroger that gets a lot of people, but I have spoke about the fact that once you don't require a developer to put that in, there's nothing really to compel them to do that in the future. So I think, and with Kroger, so we're going to be dealing with that for 30 or 40 years, the way that design is, and all of those people that currently walk there are just kind of second-class citizens, having to kind of struggle through in between the Taco Bell and the McDonald's. But I think we have a chance here to just, it's a very little change. There's a very little extra concrete added, but just to make sure that connection's there, so that people that do, if anybody does end up walking here, that they'll just have a safe trip there. So other than that, I definitely support this project. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak against the proposal? Hearing none, we'll call this public hearing to a close. We'll move on to other agenda items. There are no reports of standing committees of council and no request to address council on agenda items. We do have a request to address council on later on in the agenda. So we'll move on to introductory readings of ordinances, and that is an ordinance approving the preliminary and final plan for Reliant Hospital Norwood, located at 4953 Section Avenue. Mr. Thornberry.
Yes, Madam President, I move that we suspend the rules and have all three readings of the ordinance.
You want a second, Ms. Allen? No? Seconded by Mr. Whittington. Is there any discussion? Ms. Allen?
Yes, I would ask, James and I did meet earlier today about kind of some other issues with transit-oriented development, but we talked about this connectivity. So I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place to ask the developers to potentially respond to what James had said, and if so, if we could have them do that now. Is this the appropriate?
Would you mind coming forward? Yes, up here, please. It's so folks at home can hear. Thank you. If you'll give us your name.
Sure. I'm Rusty Myers with Jones Lang LaSalle and representing Reliant here locally. While I can't speak directly to the question, I'm sure they have no problem doing that and connecting to the sidewalk. Again, for patient convenience and safety, I'm sure that's something that they definitely would take a look at and see how it fits on the site plan.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you. Then I would ask if we can maybe do an amendment to the resolution. In
Would
terms
you-
of procedure, is that, no?
I don't think we can because it came through the planning commission and
Okay, so
we had
there
the public
can't be-
hearing. So
okay.
I think it's going to have to be a sit-down afterwards or a
Got it.
gentleman's
Okay.
agreement, if you will, because this is what was
Okay.
presented to us.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Mr. Sanker.
Yeah, I would think that potentially, whether we have all three readings or not this evening, which, we could, if we had a note in there suggesting that the developers take into consideration, council's request to take into consideration, not necessarily amending the ordinance as is, because it would have to go back to planning. But
Right.
if they would consider that as part of council's approval, it would be our recommendation that that piece of sidewalk be added if it is not an obstruction to impeding any other type of transportation in and out also. So I think we could put that in there, or, have
We
first
could
and
have
second
the clerk-
reading, and then have, that we could get a more definitive answer from the law department, if that's the wishes of council.
Or I think procedurally as well, you could amend the motion if you wanted to include a letter from the clerk's office or from council that the clerk could write on your behalf that says that we would recommend, or it's the recommendation of council that, that you look at this. Yes, Mr. Sanker.
Something on that line where council, with council's approval, they also make the suggestion that this slight addition be added as, suggested, with their approval or something to that effect, but.
All right. Yes, Mr. Thornberry.
Well, in that case, I would amend my motion to have all three readings to include the letter as mentioned.
Okay. And Mr. Whittington, will you amend your
I'll
second?
amend that also.
All right. So now the motion on the floor is to suspend the rules, have all three readings, and then have the clerk's office address a letter, if you will, to the developers asking that there be connectivity, sidewalk connectivity from the development out to the sidewalk. Is that fair indication? Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Thornberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sanker?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mumper?
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Please have all three readings.
Ordinance approving the preliminary and final plan for Reliant Hospital Norwood located at 4953 Section Avenue. Ordinance approving the preliminary and final plan for Reliant Hospital Norwood located at 4953 Section Avenue. Ordinance approving the preliminary and final plan for Reliant Hospital Norwood located at 4953 Section Avenue.
Mr. Thornberry,
Yes, I move that the ordinance be passed.
seconded by Ms. Allen. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Thornberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sanker?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mumper?
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Look forward to having you here in Norwood. We We have no introductory readings of resolutions. We did have a letter from the mayor, but he is now present, so we wish him well, speedy recovery. So we'll move on to other requests to address council, and I have one from Bill Thomas and Brett Veers. Is it Veers or Viers?
It's here.
Veers, thank you. Regarding the building department. Gentlemen, you want to come forward? Okay, thank you. If you'll give us your name and address, and then you'll have 5 minutes to address council. If you need more time, we can ask to amend, but.
It's Bill Thomas. We own the building at 4431 Allison Street. I have sent a few letters into council and the mayors and would like to read what I have sent, so to put it on record, since I have not had any response except for Mrs. Lake here, but no one else has responded to these letters, so we're going to get them on record. Dear Council and Mayor, Brett Veers and I founded our company last October. When we were researching places to purchase property, we selected property in Norwood, specifically 4431 Allison Street. Upon purchase of the building, there were complications from the start. The building was listed as a 10-unit, but the building department had it listed as a 9-unit. After many letters and conversations and arguments, the mistake was rectified and the building was corrected to be on file as a 10-unit building. We also noticed that this building had been lacking care and maintenance for many years. In fact, the few tenants we have allowed to remain in the building have stated that they reported certain issues to the City of Norwood without any action from the city on the reported items. Although we knew the building was a mess, we were still headstrong on going forward with the difficult task ahead of us to making this building represent your city in a positive manner rather than the negative manner that had it surrounding for years. Since inception of ownership, we've put $35,000 into the roof, $20,000 into the boiler, fully renovated 7 out of the 10 apartments with all the care that we can put into it, resurfaced the stairs on the outside with the balconies and concrete, repainted them with 10X sealant, sanded down the nooks of the roofs, repainted them, waterproofed the basement, relocated and rebuilt the laundry area, evicted a well-known criminal in the city along with several other units causing consistent police calls, patched and sealed the parking lot. The list continues to go on and on. It is apparent that we've dedicated much time and money into this property that was far behind in maintenance, which the city of Norwood had allowed without actions for years. Over the past few weeks, I've had conversations with Mr. Williams, Mrs. Lake, and Jerry Stoker regarding the recent complaint the city has filed against us regarding the condition of the parking lot, driveway apron, and exterior painting. Although we do agree that the apron is an issue, it is not something we can have done in freezing temperatures. The other items, such as the parking lot, I'm not sure if the inspector is blind or just was not aware, but it has been patched and resurfaced already. The patching was applied 2 weeks ago before the complaint, and it takes 2 weeks to settle before sealing it, which was done this evening. This was written on 11/11. I received a second notice this evening from Inspector Jim stating that we're still in violation with the city and face a $1,000 fine and 6 months imprisonment. What a fine way to thank us for everything we've done for your city in turning this building around. Not continuing to beat a dead horse in this email, but as apparent to my partner and I that the city of Norwood was negligent for many years, holding the previous owner accountable for the condition of this property. The fact that you now have someone turning it around and then slap them in the face with a letter threatening legal action is just appalling. When we drive around Norwood, we see a lot of other issues way worse than our apron and that need focus and attention. You need to put your attentions on the owners that could care less about their properties and stop harassing the ones that do. I had a great conversation with the mayor, Jerry, and Don, and thought we had a clear understanding that we would attempt to get quotes from concrete companies to see what we can do. My partner has contacted 10, and out of those 10, one came out and took a look at it. We have yet to receive a quote, but when we do, we will start budgeting for the project. Despite the conversation I had with Jerry, the city continues to pursue legal action against us. Brett and I are fully prepared to go to court and countersue the city if necessary, along with requesting the city to pay our legal fees. I'm not only discouraged, but outraged by the city's actions here. The facts are facts. The concrete damage to this apron has been long-standing for many years. Norwood should have held Laura Coles, the previous owner, responsible at some point within the 6 years of ownership of not only failure to comply with city code on the apron, but other maintenance issues of this building, including the dozen-plus police recalls to Angela Hunter in Apartment 6. In court, it will be interesting to see the city respond to why, for years, the apron was never an issue, but in the 1 year we've owned the building, it turned it around without a dime of help from your city, is now a burning and pressing matter. The entire situation is ridiculous, and we will not stand for it, and we will not be bullied around by the city any longer. Since this has been written, we have found a concrete company that will replace the apron and have tore out the sidewalk and the apron. We have personally shelled out $2,200 out of our pocket because we've put $88,000 this year into that building. We are strapped. We're out of cash. We are now tapping into our personal funds to address an issue in the middle of freezing temperatures when the building department should have been on top of all of these driveway aprons for years. And I cannot for the life of me figure out why they would decide to come at the last minute of this year, after 10 plus years of these things being an issue, to nail everybody and say you've got 14 days to comply. It's unbelievable, and it's unprofessional, and the elected officials in this city need to do something about it, because I won't stand for it, and they will not be reelected if I'm still standing and owning property in Norwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Allen?
I did want to go on record saying, and I live right next door, and I did do a reply to everyone, and I was waiting to hear back. I want to say that I feel that you've been very good property owners, and that I wanted to support you in whatever way is possible. So I will continue with that, but I want to go on record stating that I have been thrilled that you're there, and so I agree we need to figure out how we rectify the situation. So I was waiting to hear back, but hadn't heard a response yet. So I apologize if you think that it hadn't been talked about at all, but there was some discussion, so I just wanted to put that out there.
And just for clarification, Mr. Thomas and I have talked on a couple of occasions, and as I said, I prefer to work through the mayor, because the mayor has the authority to assist in these things, and I think he's willing to do that. It's just with his medical situation in the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been at a standstill, but I assure you that it's on our radar. Does anyone else have questions of Mr. Thomas while he's here? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business? Mr. Sanker?
Just a report on Edmondson Road project over by Rookwood has been pretty well completed. And I think if anybody's been over there can attest to the street being
Very nice.
smooth. So, but that's completed. Also, Crown Avenue project is just about completed. They had a rotomill a little bit around on section at the end down there. Then the storms came the last few days, so within the next day or so, the Crown Avenue project should be pretty well completed and behind us as well.
Great, thank you, Mr. Sanker. Any other unfinished business? Yes, Mr. Sanker.
I had a few people ask about what's going on Montgomery Road, with the digging. And actually, they are replacing the gas lines. And it's not just here, but it's actually all the way up through Kennedy Heights and Silverton area as well. But is what's going on. Hopefully that will be completed within the next couple weeks. But they are replacing the gas lines on Montgomery Road when you see all that digging and that going on.
Hopefully finished before Christmas town.
Yes.
At this intersection.
They're getting north.
Any other unfinished business? Mr. Sanker?
Would like to also acknowledge the work of the tree board for the Park Avenue project. If anybody's been along Park Avenue, there's been additional 2 sections which have been replanted with new trees of multiple varieties. And if you haven't been down there, it's well worth taking a look at it. The project was well done, so I'd like to commend Mrs. Lake and this tree board for spearheading that project and getting that up and going. It looks really well.
Thank you, Mr. Sanker. And Victory Park, too, if you've been by there, we redid some of Victory Park,
Yep.
opened that up a little bit, so that looks done right before Veterans Day, which was very nice. Any other unfinished business? Mr. Sanker?
Just an update on, a couple weeks ago, we passed the ordinance regarding using JMA and for our stormwater program. all the paperwork was filed and on time and completed, and we should be in full compliance with the county beginning January the 1st. So then we will have our own stormwater program here and start being able to use some of those funds towards some of the catch basins and so forth as they accumulate. So that's taken care of.
Good, thank you. Any other unfinished business? No, we'll move on to new business.
Did you want to talk about Christmas?
Well, no, you can.
No.
I wanted to, I had gotten an email from Senator Kearney's office. Did you all get a copy of that email
About Montgomery Road?
about Montgomery Road? And I just didn't know if you wanted, I'm not sure where it has gone, but we had gotten an email that Senator Kearney was considering introducing a bill that would rename Montgomery Road within the boundaries of Norwood as the Carl Lindner Memorial Highway, I think. And so because of the change that was made to our other resolution objecting about not having input, that was sent to council members, and I just wanted to bring it up to see if there was any discussion or anyone had any thoughts about it, or if we should just let it go. Mr. Thornberry.
My personal feeling is that we should just let it go. It's a lame duck effort that the senator is doing in the lame duck session, and I don't think anybody expects that it will pass, and I mean, I don't see it as an imminent situation and something that down the road we can discuss as which is how we position the other proposal, that this is maybe something better put to an internal discussion, some sort of committee or something to look into something like that.
Mr. Mumper?
Yes, when we had the first issue about the 562, I called Senator Kearney's office and told him, we have people from Norwood that we'd like to name streets after, and it'd be much more important to us to do it that way. And I had mentioned Carl Lindner Jr., and it's nice that he picked up on that. I mean, it's a little more welcoming than the last thing he tried to do, but I did smile at least when I read the email. But I agree with Mr. Thornberry. I don't think it'll happen.
And just in my discussions with the mayor, he had indicated that the law department was doing some investigation, some background work, that we may have the authority to just do it ourselves
Yes.
anyway. So I just said
We
I would
just may
bring it
not
up,
have-
and so I bring it up, and I think we should just, the indication is we are just going to be silent.
We may not have the money to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right, I think we're finished with that. Mr. Zeiger, did you have new business?
Well, Madam President, I just wanted to mention everybody that on December the 6th is the third annual or fourth annual? Third annual Norwood Christmas Town, which is presented by the Norwood Professional Business Women's Association. And if you have some more detail on it as far as times and the location.
I think it's from 11 in the morning until 8 in the evening. There will be, in the field house, in the middle school field house, there will be vendors there selling crafts and food and all sorts of things. Santa Claus will be there, and there'll be free pictures with Santa Claus. I think there are 2 carousels, but there will be carousels, free carousel rides, several carriages, so that there's free carriage rides as well, that will start on Elm and go down around the high school and stuff and come back. So those are all free. Those have been sponsored either by members or by businesses, as well as the carousel. So there'll be a beer tent and food tents. I think, I'm not certain who's doing the food this year, but there will be, I think, I wanted to say it was Quatman Burgers, but I wouldn't swear to it. I'm pretty sure it's Quatman Burgers. All of that will be alongside on Elm Avenue, mostly on Elm and Station, around in that area, and then in the field house from 11 until 8. The lighting of the Christmas tree usually takes place at the end, around 7:30, quarter to 8. And last year we got new lights. The first year when the mayor flipped the switch, everybody was kind of like, I don't doesn't look very bright. And so last year, there were all new lights put on it, and so when he flipped the switch, it was very nice. It was like 60 degrees colder last year than it was the first year, so we're kind of hoping for maybe 50-degree weather. That would be pretty nice. Last year, it was quite cold. Yes, Mr. Mumford?
Just want to mention one of the vendors in the field house for the crafts is Ann Baker, who used to work at Fidelity Federal.
Yeah?
And she also worked for the county in the treasurer's office for quite a few years. She just retired and told me she could use all the advertising she could get to sell some items of hers at the craft fair, part of the
They're
Christmas town.
quite talented crafters that were there
Yes,
last
they
year,
are.
so. Yeah, so most of the activities are free. You can spend money on food and drinks if you want to, but you can't come as a family and not spend anything if you don't want to, so happy to have you out. Any other new business? Mr. Sanker?
Yes, Madam President, on behalf of council, I would like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving as we enter into this holiday season. Everybody bear in mind the people that are a little less fortunate than others, and keep them in mind during this holiday time, and hopefully you have a good holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Short meeting. We have no communications. We do have one absent member. Mr. Thornberry?
Yes, Madam President, I move that we excuse the absent member.
Seconded by Mr. Brady.
Got sales on the brain.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Thornberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sanker?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mumford?
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. Mr. Thornberry?
I move we adjourn.
Seconded by Mr. Braden. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Braden?
Yes.
Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Thornberry?
Yes.
Mr. Sanker?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mumford?
Yes.
All members present voting aye, the motion carries. This meeting is hereby adjourned.
Guess